Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
I always thought my marriage would end with a whimper, not with a group chat screenshot that made my coffee taste like battery acid. My name is Ethan Bell, and I'm what you'd call a functioning skeptic. 39 years old, systems architect for a mid-sized tech company, and apparently the kind of husband who gets blindsided by his own wife's schemes. The kind of guy who notices when the server crashes at 3 a.m., but somehow misses when his marriage crashes over 18 months of careful planning. It was a Tuesday morning in October when everything started unraveling. Tara, my wife of 14 years, was rushing around our suburban kitchen, her phone buzzing like an angry wasp. She'd been getting a lot of calls lately. Work emergencies, she called them. As the HR manager for Pinnacle Solutions, she claimed her boss, Brent Mallory, needed constant consultation. Another crisis at the office? I asked, watching her grab her designer purse. You wouldn't understand, Tara said, not looking up from her phone. It's complicated corporate stuff. Our son Max, 12 years old and sharper than both his parents combined, glanced up from his cereal. Why does Mr. Mallory text you so much on weekends? Tara's face flushed. He's just very dedicated to the company. After she left, Max looked at me with those serious brown eyes. Dad, do you think Mom likes her job too much? What do you mean, buddy? She talks about Mr. Mallory like he's more important than us. That comment stuck with me all day. By evening, when Tara came home 3 hours late with another client dinner excuse, I decided to pay attention to details I'd been ignoring. The next morning, I suggested installing a security system. Just for peace of mind, I told Tara. Crime's been going up in the neighborhood. She seemed nervous. We don't need cameras, Ethan. That's paranoid. It's practical. Samir can help me set it up this weekend. Samir Khan, my closest friend since college, worked in cybersecurity. He'd helped me through every major decision in my adult life, usually with sarcastic commentary and excellent technical advice. That Saturday, while Tara was at her yoga class, Samir came over with a box of equipment. You sure about this? He asked, drilling holes for the camera mounts. Once you start watching, you can't stop watching. I just want to know what's happening in my own house. Famous last words, Samir muttered. The cameras went live Sunday night. By Wednesday, I had my answer. I was working late in my home office when I heard Tara's voice from the kitchen, talking on speakerphone. The new audio pickup was crystal clear. The timing has to be perfect, Mom, Tara was saying. I need to make sure everything's documented properly. Are you certain about the paternity? That was Judith, my mother-in-law, her voice sharp with calculation. Max looks exactly like Brent. Same eyes, same smile. Ethan's too trusting to notice. My hands stopped moving on the keyboard. And you're sure this will work? Judith continued. Child support from Brent's salary will be 3 times what I'd get from Ethan. Plus, I'll have leverage over Brent once his wife finds out. It's perfect. What about Ethan? Tara laughed, a sound I'd heard 1,000 times, but never recognized as cruel until that moment. He'll be devastated, but he'll pay support for a child that isn't even his. He's too decent to abandon Max, even after he learns the truth. I sat in my office chair, staring at the monitor, my coffee growing cold. 14 years of marriage, and I was just a backup plan. A safety net for when her real scheme needed funding. I reached for my phone and started recording the conversation. The DNA test will prove everything, Tara continued. I've got samples from both of them. Lauren helped me get Brent's from his coffee cup at work. Lauren, Tara's best friend from the office, the one who'd been coming to our house for dinner parties, laughing at my jokes, accepting my hospitality, while helping my wife plan my destruction. You're sure Ethan won't suspect? Judith asked. He's been working 60-hour weeks for months. He barely notices what I'm doing. By the time he figures it out, I'll have everything I need. The conversation continued for another 10 minutes, covering details that made my stomach turn. Bank accounts they'd been monitoring, legal strategies they'd researched, even backup plans if Brent tried to deny paternity. When the call ended, I sat in the darkness of my office, listening to Tara's footsteps on the stairs. She called out, "Working late again, honey?" "Just finishing up," I replied, surprised by how normal my voice sounded. That night, I lay awake next to my wife, staring at the ceiling. She slept peacefully, probably dreaming about her new life with Brent Mallory's money and social status. I spent the dark hours planning. The next morning, I called in sick to work. After Tara left for her job and Max caught the school bus, I drove to a private lab across town. I need a paternity test, I told the technician, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes who'd probably seen this story before. We'll need samples from you, the child, and the potential father. I can get my son's sample. The other man, that might be trickier. She handed me a kit. Hair with roots, saliva, anything with DNA. We're very discreet here. Back home, I collected what I needed from Max's hairbrush, feeling like a traitor. He was still my son in every way that mattered, regardless of genetics. But I needed proof of what Tara had done. Getting Brent's DNA required creativity. I called Samir. I need a favor, and it's going to sound weird. Weird is my specialty. What's up? I explained the situation. Samir listened without interrupting, which meant he was taking it seriously. That's harsh, man. What do you need? Help getting a DNA sample from Brent Mallory? The guy with the Jaguar who thinks he's Steve Jobs? This should be fun. We met at Pinnacle Solutions parking garage that evening. Brent always stayed late, part of his executive dedication image. When he finally emerged, Samir created a distraction by accidentally bumping into him near the elevators. Sorry, man. Let me help you with those papers. In the confusion, I grabbed Brent's discarded coffee cup from a nearby trash can. Not elegant, but effective. Got it, I texted Samir. You owe me dinner somewhere expensive, he texted back. The lab promised results in 5 business days. While waiting, I started documenting everything. Screenshots of Tara's unusual text patterns. Photos of receipts from restaurants, where she claimed to be eating alone but ordered meals for 2. Credit card statements showing purchases at stores she never mentioned visiting. I also installed software on our shared computer that would back up any files Tara accessed. Samir helped me set it up to look like a routine security update. You're being very thorough, he observed. I learned from the best. Remember when you caught your ex-girlfriend cheating? That was different. She wasn't planning to financially destroy me in the process. On Thursday, I found what I was looking for. Tara had been careless with her laptop, leaving it open while she showered. Her email account was still logged in. The messages between Tara and Lauren painted a picture that made me nauseous. Months of planning. Detailed discussions about how to manage both Brent and me. Screenshots of text conversations with Brent that left no doubt about their relationship. But the worst was a message thread titled, Exit Strategy. Phase 1 complete, Tara had written. Brent is completely hooked. He's talking about leaving his wife. Lauren's response, what about Ethan? He'll be useful for a while. His salary can support Max while I transition. Once the paternity results are official, I'll have leverage over Brent and backup support from Ethan. You're evil, Lauren had replied, followed by laughing emojis. I'm practical. Why settle for one man's money when I can have access to both? I printed everything, my hands shaking with rage. Not just at the betrayal, but at how calculated it all was. I wasn't a husband to Tara. I was a financial instrument. Friday afternoon, the lab called. Mr. Bell, we have your results. And, based on the samples provided, you are not the biological father of the child in question. The probability is 99.97% exclusion. I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat in my car in the lab's parking lot, gripping the steering wheel. Max wasn't mine. After 12 years of bedtime stories, soccer practices, homework help, and unconditional love, I just learned that my son was the product of my wife. Affair. But he was still my son. Biology didn't change that. I drove to my lawyer's office. This is a complex situation, Attorney Patricia Walsh said after reviewing my evidence. The good news is you have documentation of fraud and adultery. The bad news is proving intentional deception regarding paternity can be challenging. What are my options? File for divorce citing adultery. Seek full custody of Max, based on your wife's documented deception and planning to use him as a financial tool. The recorded conversations will be crucial. What about Brent? If he's the biological father and your wife was planning to seek support from him, that's between them. Your focus should be protecting yourself and Max. I signed the retainer agreement and authorized her to begin proceedings. That weekend, I acted normal. We went to Max's soccer game, had dinner as a family, watched movies together. Tara seemed relaxed, probably thinking her plan was proceeding smoothly. Sunday night, she got a call from Lauren. "Everything's ready for next week," I heard Tara say. "Ethan won't know what hit him. Neither would she." Monday morning, I took a personal day. After Tara left for work and Max went to school, I loaded my car with printed evidence, legal documents, and a portable speaker. Pinnacle Solutions occupied 3 floors of a glass office building downtown. I'd been there for company parties, knew the layout, and had visitor access through Tara's employee account. I arrived at 10 a.m. when I knew Tara would be in her weekly staff meeting. The conference room had glass walls, perfect for what I had planned. I walked through the lobby like I belonged there, nodded to the security guard who recognized me, and took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The conference room door was closed, but I could see 8 people around the table, including Tara, Lauren, and Brent. They were discussing quarterly performance metrics. I knocked and entered without waiting for permission. "Ethan?" Tara looked surprised. "What are you doing here?" "Delivering some important documents," I said, setting my speaker on the conference table. "I thought your team should hear this." I pressed play. Tara's voice filled the room, crystal clear from Wednesday night's recording. "Max looks exactly like Brent. Same eyes, same smile. Ethan's too trusting to notice." The room went silent. Brent's face turned pale. Lauren looked like she wanted to disappear. Child support from Brent's salary will be 3 times what I'd get from Ethan. Tara lunged for the speaker, but I moved it out of reach. Plus, I'll have leverage over Brent once his wife finds out. "It's perfect." "Turn it off," Tara hissed. "He'll pay support for a child that isn't even his. He's too decent to abandon Max." I stopped the recording and looked around the table. 6 coworkers stared at Tara with expressions ranging from shock to disgust. Brent was studying his hands. Lauren had tears in her eyes. "I also have these," I said, distributing copies of the DNA test results and selected email printouts. "Paternity test confirms Max isn't my biological son. These emails show the planning that went into this scheme." "You can't just—" Tara started. "I can, and I did. I'm filing for divorce citing adultery and fraud. I'm seeking full custody of Max based on documented evidence that you plan to use him as a financial tool." I turned to Brent. "Your wife Felicia might be interested in these emails too. I have her contact information." Brent finally looked up. "Ethan, we should talk privately. We're way past private conversations. You two planned this in private. Now everyone gets to see the results." I handed Tara an envelope. "Divorce papers. You've been served." The conference room remained dead quiet as I packed up my materials. "Oh, and Lauren?" I looked at Tara's best friend. "Thanks for helping get Brent's DNA sample. That coffee cup thing was your idea, according to the emails. Very creative." I left them sitting in their glass box, visible to the entire office floor. By the time I reached the parking garage, my phone was buzzing with calls from Tara. I didn't answer. Instead, I drove to Max's school. He needed to hear this from me before the gossip reached him. "Dad?" Max looked confused when I signed him out of class early. "What's wrong?" We sat in my car in the school parking lot. I'd rehearsed this conversation a dozen times, but the words still came hard. "Max, I need to tell you something important about Mom and me." He listened without interrupting as I explained the divorce, the affair, and the paternity test. I was careful to emphasize that he was still my son in every way that mattered. "So, Mr. Mallory is my real father?" he asked quietly. "Biologically, yes. But biology doesn't make someone a father. Being there does. Caring does. Love does. Are you going to stop being my dad?" Never. Not ever. You're my son, Max. That will never change. He was quiet for a long time, processing. Is that why Mom's been so weird lately? Planning all this? Yeah, buddy, I'm sorry you have to deal with this. I'm not surprised, Max said, which broke my heart a little. She's been acting like she doesn't want to be here. We drove home together. I made lunch while Max called his best friend to cancel afternoon plans. He wanted to stay close to home, which I understood. At 3 p.m., Tara's car screeched into our driveway. She burst through the front door, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. How could you do that to me? In front of my entire team? The same way you could plan to destroy my life in front of your entire team, I replied calmly. Where's the difference? You humiliated me. You humiliated yourself. I just provided the audio.
She left this in your apron. You didn't even throw it away. You forgot a woman's lipstick in your—
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
Max appeared in the kitchen doorway. Tara's expression softened when she saw him. Max, honey, your father is being very unreasonable. We can work this out. No, we can't, Max said quietly. I heard what you said about using me for money. That's messed up, Mom. Tara's face crumpled. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I was trying to secure our future. You were trying to secure your future, I corrected. Max and I were just tools to get there. My phone rang. Patricia Walsh, my attorney. Ethan, we need to talk. Tara's lawyer called. She's claiming you illegally recorded private conversations. The recording was made in my own home, on my own security system. That's legal in this state. I know. But she's also claiming you stole corporate documents and harassed her at work. I'll be right there. I looked at Tara, who was listening to my half of the conversation with obvious satisfaction. Your move backfired, she said. Brent has lawyers too. Good ones. We'll see about that. But as I drove to my attorney's office, I realized Tara was right about one thing. This was just the beginning. The next 2 weeks turned into a war of attrition. Tara moved in with Lauren temporarily, claiming she needed space to think. What she actually needed was time to coordinate her counterattack. It started with my job. On Wednesday, my boss Vicky called me into her office. Ethan, I've received some concerning information about your recent behavior. What kind of information? Anonymous reports about erratic conduct, possible substance abuse, and misuse of company resources for personal matters. I sat back in my chair, recognizing Tara's handiwork. These are false accusations related to my divorce proceedings. I hope so, but HR requires investigation of any such reports. You're suspended with pay pending review. Walking out of my office with a box of personal items, I felt the stares of my coworkers. Tara had poisoned the well efficiently. Samir met me in the parking lot. This is garbage, he said, helping me load my car. Everyone knows you're solid. Doesn't matter what they know. Matters what they've been told. That evening, Max came home from school upset. Some kids were saying weird stuff about you, Dad. About you getting in trouble at work. What kind of stuff? That you got fired for stealing. That you're on drugs. His voice was small. I told them it wasn't true. It's not true, Max, but sometimes people spread lies to hurt other people. Is Mom doing this? I think so. That's really messed up. I agreed, but I was more concerned about the pattern. Tara was systematically attacking my reputation, my employment, and now my relationship with Max's social circle. She was playing for keeps. Friday afternoon brought worse news. Patricia Walsh called with an update. Tara's attorney filed a motion claiming you're an unfit parent. They're citing your work suspension, alleged substance abuse, and what they call erratic behavior, including the office confrontation. All of which stems from discovering her affair and fraud. I know. But we need to respond carefully. They're asking for supervised visitation only. They want to take Max away from me? They want leverage. If they can restrict your access to Max, they think you'll be more willing to negotiate on financial terms. That night, I sat in my kitchen, staring at legal documents and wondering how my life had become a tactical battlefield. Max was upstairs doing homework, probably hearing more whispered phone conversations between Tara and her allies. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Felicia Mallory. We need to talk. Brent's wife. I'd sent her copies of the emails, but hadn't expected direct contact. When and where? I texted back. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Riverside Park. Come alone. Saturday afternoon, I found Felicia Mallory sitting on a bench overlooking the river. She was elegant in the way that money makes possible, but her eyes were hard. Mr. Bell, Mrs. Mallory, your wife destroyed my marriage. Your husband destroyed my marriage. Tara just provided the opportunity. She smiled grimly. Fair enough. But now they've both destroyed themselves, and I think we can help each other. How? I have access to Brent's financial records, business communications, and social connections. You have evidence of their planning and fraud. Together, we can make sure they both pay for what they've done. What did you have in mind? Felicia opened her purse and pulled out a folder. Brent's been embezzling company funds to pay for his affair with your wife. Expensive hotels, jewelry, even a weekend trip to Napa that he claimed was a business conference. She showed me credit card statements and expense reports that didn't match. I've also discovered he's been sharing confidential client information with Tara, probably pillow talk that she's been using to advance her career. That's corporate espionage. Exactly. And I have recordings of him bragging about it. I studied the documents. Why are you giving me this? Because I want them both to lose everything, and you're the only person with as much motivation as I have. We spent an hour planning. Felicia had resources and connections I lacked. I had evidence and technical skills she needed. It was a partnership born of mutual revenge, but it felt like justice. Sunday evening, I put the plan into motion. Using Samir's expertise, we created anonymous accounts and began distributing information strategically. Brent's embezzlement evidence went to Pinnacle Solutions Board of Directors and their largest clients. Tara's emails about using Max for financial leverage went to her extended family and professional network. By Monday morning, both their phones were ringing constantly. I picked up Max from school that afternoon and took him for ice cream. Mom called me today, he said, stirring his sundae. She was crying. About what? She said people were being mean to her at work, that someone was spreading lies. How do you feel about that? Max was quiet for a long time. I feel bad that she's sad, but I'm still mad about what she did to us. That's okay. You can feel both things. Are you spreading lies about Mom? No, buddy. I'm spreading the truth. Sometimes the truth hurts people, but it's still the truth. Good, Max said firmly. She should feel bad about what she did. That evening, Tara called. You're destroying my life, she said without preamble. You destroyed my life first. I'm just returning the favor. This has to stop, Ethan. We can work something out. Now you want to negotiate? After trying to take Max away from me? I made a mistake. You made a choice. Multiple choices over many months. Now you get to live with the consequences. Please, I'll lose my job. You should have thought of that before planning to use our son as a financial weapon. I hung up and blocked her number. The war was far from over, but for the first time since this started, I felt like I was winning. 3 days later, everything changed again. I was making breakfast when Max came downstairs with a strange expression. Dad, there's something you need to see. He handed me his phone, showing a social media post from Lauren. Heartbroken to see how divorce can make good people do terrible things. Ethan Bell used to be a friend, but his recent actions show what happens when someone loses their way. Praying for healing and forgiveness. The post had dozens of comments, most from people I didn't recognize, but who seemed to know intimate details about my situation. Details that painted me as an unstable, vindictive ex-husband who was harassing his innocent wife. There are more, Max said quietly. He showed me posts from other people in Tara's network. A coordinated campaign designed to rehabilitate her image while destroying mine. They were claiming I'd fabricated evidence, that the recordings were taken out of context, that my behavior was becoming dangerous. This is really bad, isn't it? Max asked. Before I could answer, my phone rang. Patricia Walsh. Ethan, we have a problem. Tara's team has filed a restraining order, claiming you've been stalking and harassing her. There's a hearing this afternoon. That's ridiculous. They have screenshots of you following her social media, evidence of you being at her workplace, and testimony from witnesses claiming you've been making threats. I served divorce papers and exposed her affair. That's not stalking. I know, But the judge doesn't know that yet. Don't contact Tara or go anywhere near her workplace until after the hearing. I spent the morning pacing my kitchen, realizing how effectively Tara had maneuvered me into a corner. Every action I'd taken in response to her betrayal was being reframed as harassment. Every piece of evidence I'd gathered was being portrayed as obsessive behavior. At the hearing, Tara sat with her attorney, looking vulnerable and frightened. She'd dressed carefully, conservative clothes, minimal makeup, the picture of an abused wife seeking protection. Her attorney painted a picture of escalating harassment. The office confrontation became workplace stalking. The evidence I'd gathered became invasion of privacy. My suspension from work became proof of instability. Your Honor, Patricia argued, Mr. Bell discovered extensive fraud and adultery. His actions were those of a betrayed husband seeking justice, not harassment. But the judge was cautious. Given the allegations in the presence of a minor child, I'm granting a temporary restraining order. Mr. Bell must stay at least 500 feet from Mrs. Bell, except for scheduled custody exchanges. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt defeated. Tara had successfully made herself the victim of her own schemes. That evening, Felicia Mallory called. I heard about the restraining order. Tara's smarter than we gave her credit for. She's winning. Not yet. But we need to change tactics. No more direct confrontation. It's time for surgical precision. What do you mean? Brent's company is announcing their quarterly earnings next week. The board meeting is Thursday. What if they discovered his embezzlement at the most public moment possible? How? Leave that to me. But I'll need your technical expertise for the delivery method. We met the next day at a coffee shop across town. Felicia had done her homework. Brent's presenting the financial summary to the board and several major investors. It's being live-streamed to employees and stakeholders. Maximum visibility. What's the plan? During his presentation, the evidence of his embezzlement appears on screen. Not hacking. I have legitimate access to his accounts as his wife. But I need someone who can make it look seamless. That's doable. Samir can help. There's more. Tara will be there as HR manager. What if the presentation also revealed her role in covering up Brent's activities and her plans to use your son for financial manipulation? I smiled for the first time in days. Now, you're thinking like a systems architect. We spent 3 hours planning every detail. The timing had to be perfect. Dramatic enough to be devastating, but legal enough to avoid criminal charges. Thursday morning, I dropped Max at school and drove to a coffee shop with clear sightlines to Pinnacle Solutions building. Samir was already there with his laptop. This is either brilliant or insane, he said, reviewing our plan. Probably both. At 10 a.m., we watched employees gathering in the building's main conference room. The quarterly presentation was being broadcast on screens throughout the office. Ready? Samir asked. Do it. Using Felicia's access credentials, we logged into Brent's financial accounts. The presentation was proceeding normally. Quarterly profits, growth projections, future investments. Then, at exactly 10:23 a.m., the screen changed. Instead of profit charts, the display showed bank statements documenting $47,000 in unauthorized expenses. Hotel receipts, jewelry purchases, restaurant bills, all charged to company accounts for Brent's personal use. The conference room erupted. Board members started shouting questions. Brent frantically tried to change the display, but we'd locked him out of the system. The next slide showed email exchanges between Brent and Tara discussing confidential client information. Then came the recordings of Tara's conversations about using Max for child support leverage. And my God, I heard someone say in the background audio. They planned all of this. Security rushed to disconnect the presentation equipment, but it was too late. 50 employees and a dozen investors had witnessed everything. The live stream had been automatically archived. Within an hour, both Brent and Tara were escorted from the building by security. My phone rang. Max's school. Mr. Bell? Max asked to call you. He says it's important. Dad! Max's voice was excited. Everyone's talking about some video of Mom and Mr. Mallory. Did you see it? I saw it. Is it over now? Yeah, buddy, I think it's over. That afternoon, Patricia Walsh called with updates. Tara's attorney wants to negotiate. The restraining order is being withdrawn. They're willing to discuss joint custody, and reasonable support arrangements. What changed their minds? Public humiliation is a powerful motivator. Also, Tara's probably going to need a good lawyer for her upcoming legal troubles. Corporate fraud charges are serious. I picked up Max from school and took him home. For the first time in months, our house felt peaceful. "Dad," Max said as we sat on the couch, "are you going to be okay?" "We're going to be okay," I corrected. "The both of us." "Good." I was worried. "You don't need to worry anymore. The people who were trying to hurt us can't do that now." "Because you stopped them?" "Because we stopped them." "You were brave through all of this, Max. That made the difference." That evening, I sat on my back porch, watching the sunset and thinking about justice. Tara and Brent had lost their jobs, their reputations, and their schemes. Max was safe. I was free. Sometimes the good guys actually win. My phone buzzed with a text from Felicia Mallory. "Thank you. Justice served." I texted back, "Thank you too. Couldn't have done it alone. What's next for you?" I looked through the window at Max doing homework at the kitchen table, safe and happy in his home. Moving forward, I typed, "Finally." The war was over. We had won.